Thank you for inviting me. It's a great honor to be here with you. When I was invited to speak at this conference, I asked myself, how can I deliver the most value? And there are plenty of great speakers, including previous speaker, who can talk about the science and technology. I thought that the value I can deliver is by sharing observations from year 2023, when I worked with many of our customers who tried to wrap their head around generative AI, and try to make some predictions of what I think will happen in the near future. Because all of you are probably also planning your future, planning what to do in next year, so hopefully it will be useful for you. Generative AI has made multidimensional qualitative leap across at least 3 frontiers of technology. The first one is human-computer interaction. We started from dumb terminals, GUI, internet, mobile, social, and now conversational. Now, of course, the conversational AI isn't entirely new. It was introduced and pioneered by Alexa and other similar devices years ago, but the latest advances in large language model technologies has made it truly conversational. It feels like you're talking to a human. The second is advances in knowledge management, right? So we went from flat files to relational databases to data warehouses to big data to traditional search, syntactic search, and now semantic search. And it also introduced transformation in the computer ability to generate new content. And it could be generating new content in response to the information, such as summarizing documents or describing an image, or it could be generating entirely new content, new documents in response to a prompt, new documents, new images, new videos. And so while I have seen tens of thousands of companies experiment with generative AI, all of the experiments took advantage of one or more of these new frontiers. And even though there were hundreds of thousands of experiments, all of them can be roughly, well, most of them can be roughly grouped into 5 patterns. So the first one is customer experience management. Unsurprisingly, the first category and the first use case in that was a chatbot inspired by ChatGPT. Almost all customer experiments I've seen from January to April were some kinds of chatbot. But later, there were additional use cases that started emerging in that category. For example, real-time assist. So you have an agent interacting with the customer, and the computer is helping them decide what to do next. Or post-interaction analysis and summarization. The second one is knowledge-based interaction. We live in a knowledge economy. A lot of business capabilities have been are being commoditized, and often the distinction between winning companies and the rest is in the quality of decisions that they make. And that itself depends on the quality of leadership and the ability to effectively use the knowledge that the company has at their disposal. Software engineering talent is always in short supply, and it's one of the major limiting factors for companies' innovation. And code is just a special kind of text. So there is a lot of interest in using generative AI to augment software developers. The early use cases were inline code suggestions, then generating of the whole snippets of code, even small apps. One of the interesting use cases that got many enterprises excited is code transformation. You may not be surprised, but there's a lot of legacy technology still out there, and the people who know how it works are retiring in large numbers. And so there is a potential interesting, exciting use case for generative AI there to help us get out of that legacy faster. Another one is document processing. Almost all of our business processes involve some form of document processing. It could be legal contracts, financial statements, marketing analysis, academic research. And it's not humanly possible for us to read all of them carefully, to interpret them accurately. Computers don't get tired, they don't get bored. So it's a very interesting use case for generative AI. And of course, the fifth family of use cases is content generation. In practical terms, I've seen it mostly used for hyper-personalization, so hyper-personalized marketing outreach, hyper-personalized advertisement, but also product descriptions, product images, and even product videos. So most of you are familiar with this. It's a hype curve, and every technology starts by climbing up the peak of inflated expectations. Usually it takes it about 2 to 4 years to get there. Then, as it put to practical use, people realize it's not as magical as they thought, so it drops into what's called a trough of disillusionment. And then it has about 3 to 5 years to emerge on the other end, if it does. Not every technology does. And the prerequisite for that is to deliver broad and tangible business value. So in my opinion, generative AI in 2023, in less than 12 months, climbed all the way to the peak of inflated expectations. What usually takes most technologies 2 to 4 years, generative AI was able to accomplish in less than 12 months. Why do I think that? Well, the amount of media buzz is the obvious proxy metric. Another good proxy metric is the amount of VC funding flowing into this space. It's unprecedented. But the proxy metric that I find particularly interesting is the number of experiments that was conducted with this technology. Tens of thousands of companies have been experimenting with it, and every company conducted anywhere from a dozen to sometimes hundreds of experiments. So truly, 2023 could be called the year of generative AI POCs. And that's all good, except it trained us in a particular frame of mind, in a particular mindset. And that mindset shaped our perception of generative AI technology itself, and not necessarily for the better. So I would like to discuss a little more of the attributes of the POC mindset. So the first element of POC mindset is the foundation model is the center of your universe. It's understandable. It's a new technology. It's exciting technology. It has transformative potential. And this is why a lot of experiments were very centered, too centered on the foundation model itself. The second is drive for producing easy result. Again, understandable. A lot of executive interest, a lot of pressure from stakeholders, leadership. Get me results. Show me something with Gen AI. And so technologists went for the easy button way often than they should have. And one measure of that is how many POCs were built on ChatGPT. Arguably not the right tool for B2B and enterprise-grade systems, and yet. Another one is exciting. So when technologists finally got attention of the boardrooms, they wanted to impress. And so a lot of POCs emphasize the exciting element, like see what technology can do, and not enough sort of grounding in reality. Does it deliver the value? Is there potential for tangible business value? Can this be productized? Another interesting thing I've seen is a lot of this drive for Gen AI was driven by FOMO, fear of missing out. There wasn't necessarily clear understanding of this is what we expect out of it. It's more, let's check that box because otherwise we will be left behind. Otherwise we will be disrupted, or somebody will think that we're not quite as technically capable as we would like to be. And the last but not least, there was a lot of cutting of corners. A lot of normal precautions about privacy, compliance, security were forgotten, and you probably have heard also of some sensitive data leaks and other unpleasant outcomes. So these were the attributes of POC mindset, all understandable, but also shaping our approach to Gen AI technology and using it with our enterprise systems in a way that probably isn't very helpful. There are a few other interesting trends that I've observed in 2023 that may be helpful. First is very rapid diffusion of knowledge. If you think about this time a year ago, there were probably just a few companies that really understood how to build this foundation model and how the generative AI works. By now, I would say it's probably hundreds of companies who have certain degree of understanding. And it was driven by two things. First, open source was involved early and very actively. And second, VC funding was pulling ambitious and smart individuals from incumbent companies and encouraging them to start their own companies and share that knowledge with their teams. So as a result, I expect this diffusion of knowledge to continue. And this contributed to very rapid commoditization. Now, models are still very different, and you could still find that different models are better, and they sort of keep leapfrogging each other. So at any point in time, you could point at, okay, so this model is better, or that model is better. But if you look at the trend line, the delta between the models is decreasing and will continue to decrease. For example, for cloud, it took 12 years for other CSPs to catch up to the market leaders and become good enough. In the foundation models, it took less than 12 months. Every cloud service provider now has at least one and possibly multiple models that are quite comparable to each other. And so if this is where we were in 2023, then logically, this is where we're going into 2024, 2025. Right? Probably we're going to start seeing a little bit of disillusionment. It's not as magical as we thought. Technology is still awesome and still has transformative potential, but once we start putting it to real practical use, we will start seeing all sorts of friction that will take time, effort to overcome. Now the real work begins. It's normal. We shouldn't be discouraged. We shouldn't say that, oh, okay, so it hasn't delivered. No. That is normal. That's to be expected. Now the real work begins of unlocking the potential of generative AI. And so here are some of the trends I expect in 2024 as a result. First, companies who have done enough experiments and discovered a few use cases that they believe will deliver business value, tangible business value, will start moving to production. And when moving to production, they will ask very different questions. They will need to adopt very different mindset, and I'll talk more about it later. And the second one is I will expect to continue the democratization of the technology for building of foundation models. There will, of course, be companies like Anthropic who will continue to be on the bleeding edge. But I expect the number of companies capable of building models to grow into hundreds and maybe thousands, thanks to democratization of technology. It doesn't mean that all of them will, or it doesn't mean that all of them will build it from scratch, but they will be capable of doing that if they choose. As these trends continue, commoditization of the models and democratization of technology, new differentiators will emerge, and one of them is domain knowledge or proprietary data. If everybody has access to comparable technology, everybody understands how to build high-quality models, what is your differentiator if you choose to build one is whether you have proprietary data. In fact, that could be the question you should ask yourself is, if I decide that I want to build a model, why? Do I have proprietary data or domain knowledge that would differentiate this model? The world, 6 months from now, the world will not need yet another general purpose model. And finally, this one is a bit maybe controversial, but I'm going to make it anyway, is I think that 2024 will be the last year when general purpose models will be used as the major LLM in production systems. Right now, general purpose models are used in 99.999% of use cases. I think that by the end of 2024, they may still be used in 75 to 80% of use cases, but there will be quickly emerging a whole new breed of models that are specialized for a particular domain or for a particular workload. And they will offer better price performance for those workloads. And so by 2025, I think there will be gradual shift where general purpose models will continue to be used on the bleeding edge, but specialized models will gain more and more adoption for sort of more established use cases. And so 2024, I would call the year of production for some, for those who have progressed far enough down the path. And in order to succeed, we need to unlearn the POC mindset, and we need to adopt a production mindset. And there are some differences, sometimes substantial differences between the two. So the first one, foundation model, as exciting as it is, need to be viewed as part of the larger system, just like your relational database or data warehouse or anything else, or search. Second, once the quality is good enough, getting higher quality doesn't necessarily bring higher business value. Other factors will become more important, particularly cost per inference and latency at scale. Another thing to remember is, in the POC land, we've always, or almost always, gone for the biggest, most complex model because it didn't cost much. POC is small. But now we need to train ourselves to think differently. We need to look for the leanest, mealest, smallest, fastest, cheapest model to do the trick, right? There is a reason why model providers come up with different model sizes. We need to learn to utilize the smaller model sizes. Of course, no more cutting corners. We have to put security, privacy, and ethical element at the heart of how we do things. And finally, another thing is we need to start differentiating between how we want to interact with generative AI based on how much differentiation we want to achieve. You will use ISV products that will have generative AI in them, and that is good, but so will everybody else who uses those ISV products. Will not give you differentiation, but will keep you in the game. Then there are some cases where you want your line of business to innovate without much technical investment, and they would probably benefit from using software as a service AI services, where they don't need to bring data science expertise. Not substantial differentiation, but incremental enough. Then there are probably going to be areas where you want to build your custom differentiating capabilities, but not necessarily from data science perspective, just from application builder perspective. So that's where you will use platform as a service that serves you foundation model, usually serverlessly probably. And then there will be a few areas where you may want to differentiate yourself substantially and actually go and build your own model. And for that, you need access to lower level building blocks, right? And you need to have a platform that can support all of those modalities. Another thing that I want to dispel is I've seen some customers sort of chasing a single killer app to magically transform their business. I don't think that's necessarily the right path. I think the right path for most is just methodically working by integrating generative AI into everything you do, one workload at a time. And it's important here that as you do that, you continuously expand the number of people who are capable of doing that. Because if there's only a small number of people who can do generative AI, well, they will implement one workload, 2, 3, and then they're stuck maintaining them. So you need to think about both integrating it into more workloads, but also expanding the number of people who are capable of doing Gen AI, so you can continue this, what I call snowball effect. So a few key takeaways. Now is the time to deliver tangible business value and start asking different questions of generative AI. In order to do that, you need to adopt a production mindset. You need to start with low-hanging fruit and go for methodically integrating generative AI into everything you do, reaching the snowball effect. And that is where you will find transformation. And you need to partner with technology providers who could support you at all levels of the stack, give you a variety of the models to choose from, and who have your best interest at heart. Thank you very much.